Just a couple of guys, a couple of microphones, and a heck of a lot of know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, and alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Otos? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know show here for your draft needs, that is.
Yes, that's right. And
that's
you're entertainment only, though, Joe.
That's
one
right.
night weekly. That's it. Just here now for you guys.
Here now for you. But that's the deal. Like last week, we covered, what was it? We covered the offensive line, D-line, and
the linebackers.
Yes.
The guys in the trenches, the big dogs.
Yes, the big humans, the massive mountains that are the 6'8" tackles and all that. Couple of linebackers last week that were kind of standouts for me, and we'll look to see if anybody can develop the rest of the linebacking talent when you get into the middle and late rounds. But we are going to cover this week, we're going to cover the tight ends, running backs, and defensive backs. And what's really hard, I'll say, like, through this process, one, the tight ends are like paper thin. This position, there's like one, maybe two kind of guys that can stand out above the rest. Then there's like maybe one or two after that are like well-versed utility type tight ends that could do very well and maybe have a long career in the NFL. And after that, it's like a cliff drop-off where the rest of the talent, they have traits that you like, but then there's a lot of things they got to develop a lot more down the road to where they may make it, they may not. So it'll be interesting, I think. And then the other part of all this is that after that, you get to running backs and what have you. You get to defensive backs. Now, let me tell you this. Everybody keeps saying how deep the wide receivers are. The defensive backs are pretty darn deep, too, and maybe even deeper than wide receivers. It's insane. So there's several positions in this draft where if you have holes in those positions, this is the draft to address them.
Yep, absolutely, Joe. We're going to get to that list in just a little bit, but right now, I guess the news that's hitting at least fresh tonight, right now, is more is unfolding here with the RASHEE Rice situation here in that car accident that he was involved with. As more information is being, shown out there, and TMZ and others have the dash cams that are out there now too. And you're seeing more of this. It just looks worse for RASHEE Rice here. The fact that him and his crew leaving the scene of the crime, just walking out of it minutes after it just happened, and acting like nothing, like it's just like an everyday thing, like they were just getting out to go into the convenience store.
They were going to get ice cream.
One got out, then the other one's got out. Like, here we go, let's go. Right, and it's like, what? And after you see it's a high speed, actually on multiple lanes, underneath even like a bridge type of area too, like kind of very high traffic.
Yeah, and that's not even the worst of it,
crazy.
Jim. Get this. The new report is, as of an hour ago, is that he has 8 felony charges now. Not before it was like maybe one, maybe a couple. Now that apparently there's 8 felony charges and possibly more to come from a recent street racing incident that, just like we were talking about, Chiefs wide receiver RASHEE Rice is facing a suspension from the league, possible paid leave, and perhaps even termination of his contract. Now, that last part is pretty daunting. Like that means you royally screwed up. Not just, this isn't just now, it's not just an accident. Now you have people that are pressing charges after you because either maybe they suffered as minor as it is, maybe a small injury. I know for a fact that in one of the vehicles that were involved, there was a young child in the back seat. So this is getting way bigger than what we anticipated when we first heard of this happening. We're like, yeah, it was stupid. Yeah, he left the scene of the accident. Yeah, he's being dumb with trying to run away, and hopefully it just kind of disappears type of deal. But now you're facing charges. Now this is blown right up into a big incident. And unfortunately, this is going to be yet another black eye on the NFL because now you have one of your NFL players with total disregard of even being a human being. Like, you didn't even check on anybody to make sure everybody was okay before you decided to hightail it out of there. Like, you didn't do anything. You're just like, hey, boys, let's go. Let's wrap this thing up. We're out. You know what I mean? So this is kind of taken a life all on its own. And miraculously, the lawyer for RASHEE Rice is trying to spin it in a positive way. I don't know how you're going to be able to do that, because we've seen messages, posts, whatever, statements that the lawyer said on behalf of RASHEE Rice. Let me just say, he apologizes, he's sorry, this, that, and the other thing. And then he goes along to say something on the lines of, don't judge a man by this one incident, judge a man based on his whole history. And I'm like, do you really want to do that with RASHEE Rice? Because there's a little bit of a checkered past if you really want to go down that road. So even though the lawyer, I know he or she has to do this. They have to try to do a PR, try to save a PR, it's a PR move to try to save his what is left of his, stature and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And also it's a PR move to try to help the NFL in this regard. But even those empty promises, those empty statements you're making, everybody knows you're full of shit. Like,
well, it all looks
this
ridiculous.
is crazy.
And the fact that, the other vehicle involved and who was driving the Corvette, Theodore Knox, plays for SMU, the school that, RASHEE Rice used to attend. Because
they were close by there.
Yeah, and like you said, you could see in the clear video, it does look like they're kind of racing around, and Rice seems to try and pull the SUV in front of him, like, he can pass, I got you, but then they happen to clip, and then others were involved. And the thing is with this, which is interesting too, is what happens if the legal charges do, go forward. Because in Dallas now, in Texas, with the charges that are there, they're all misdemeanors. So he could do possible jail time. It's minimal, but 2 years or so with, I think one of the counts is $5,000 or so. But then with the aggravated assault, it's up to, $10,000. Right. I think per count. You know what I mean? So it could rack up, and then potentially what the time is. Seeing he's an NFL player though too, it's we'll see what kind of things he really does face. A lot of times we've seen these guys kind of get out of this situation, right? But then other times we actually seen it where the justice has kind of prevailed over some of this. And
when those times have happened, when justice has prevailed because it's something that they shouldn't have done or got into or whatnot, it's been videotaped. There's been pictures, and guess what? They have all of that. And now you have people that were involved in the crash pressing charges against him on top of it all. So it's like there's a ton of evidence, and there's already been, obviously, there's an arrest warrant out for him now. So now you know that it's not just send your lawyer over, we're going to work out a deal, and maybe we'll just give you a year probation because it's your first offense, whatever the case may be, right? But it's way more serious than that now, because of all the evidence that's been built up and stacked up against RASHEE Rice at this point. What would have only been a minor thing and would have went away really quickly and been handled had he done the right thing. Had he stuck around, call the cops to be there, exchange insurance, you know what I mean? Do that whole thing, check on everybody, make sure everyone's okay. Yeah, you're at fault 100%. Yeah. But all this would have went away quickly. This would have been taken care of. The insurances would have took care of the cars, anybody's, hospital bills, and then this would have all been done. Yeah. And nobody would have been talking about it at this point.
Right.
But now we're still we're talking about it now because now it's become a bigger deal. So it's like, what's the next step now? Because now that you have the charges against you and you're going to have to go to court, you're going to have to, get the best lawyer you got to try to help you get you out of this mess.
Yeah. And, I've been involved in car accidents before where there have been multiple cars. And the first thing I do, I go to see if everybody's okay.
Exactly.
It's not like I'm a nurse, anything like that, or a medical professional, or even the fact that I am even somebody that's, in the NFL or as recognizable as somebody as RASHEE Rice is. But that's just kind of like the right thing to do.
Right.
And you don't do the opposite or something like that unless you really are hiding something, or just like, I'm just going to walk away from this. Maybe nobody will catch that it's me. You know what I mean? I'm out. We're just going to act normal. Right. You know what I mean? And it's kind of funny. That's the fact that kind of the route that they take in this whole thing. Cause you see it in multiple like cartoons and things like that, and comedic movies and stuff like that. It's like, act natural. It's over here and I'm out, and nobody's ever going to know. But that's the way it kind of is in this whole thing. And again, like you said, overall image looks terrible. We've seen something like this, not actually like a car accident, but when even during the Super Bowl celebration, when Matthew Stafford was there, and remember when like one of the camera women or something like that fell off the stage and stuff like that, and he kind of he was intoxicated a little bit, but again, just kind of like,
oops.
Well, just like, look, doesn't go to try to help or anything like that. But everybody's like, so nobody runs to go help. They're like, oh man, ouch. That's rough, but
right.
It just looks bad. And again, it's worse for somebody that you're on this type of platform, like they would say. And it just, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with all this. More charges here against him. And
that could, and then even more than this right now, they're saying is a potential for more charges to come out, which would be insane.
Yeah.
Because we're already, like, before it was like, all right, maybe he's going to face a charge or two, and it's going to be taken care of really quickly.
Yeah.
Now you're up to 8 charges, and now they're still thinking about there could be more after that, which is kind of insane when you think about it.
I wonder which way it'll take, too, because the person that is his attorney backing him up is a senator for the state as well. So I'm wondering how that plays into things here. So, I mean,
you're not getting reelected.
Probably not. We'll see. We'll see there. But yeah, so there's some more news going around here in the NFL too as well.
Right.
The NFL just announced again now that they are unleashing here, offering 12 new helmets now. 12 helmets for the players to choose from. Here you go.
Right.
Here we go. They're going to unveil them here. He's like, here's which one you want.
Vast amount.
But I think the interesting thing is now there's even 8 positive or potential position specific helmets for linemen, the D linemen, and the quarterbacks. So I think that's pretty crazy too, because they've really taken this technology and tried to dial it in to focus on where the injuries are happening per position now. And I think that's a really interesting take on it. And as reading through some of the information that I've learned about this, I think one of the number one things or reasons why players have not even turned to some of the ones that they've been introducing as year round and stuff is because cosmetics, the way they look, but then also, the comfort level, which I understand. It's if they're doing things to make them safer, but not comfortable.
Right.
But then they said also this, a lot of people just don't like the way they look. So I'm wondering, what are they doing with the way they look? And right here, I have the graphic up here of the top rated ones. And those top 5 that are listed right there, Riddell being the number 1, as we could see. I've heard that now, how you see they've had the talk about the Guardian cap. Maybe they wanted to try to bring out the Guardian cap during
we heard rumors
play
about that.
and put the logos on it and stuff like
no.
that. You see them use it in practice.
No.
But they've said that these ones, the top 5 or so, have been tested and are proven to do the same amount of have the same amount of safety as if they had a Guardian cap on.
Right.
So technically, in practice, they could practice with just the helmet and not the Guardian cap. So they are taking steps moving forward to player safety here. I think it's just up to the players to get out of their old ways of how they want it or the way they like it. I would say perfect example, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has tried to stay with that same old helmet because these guys have been in the league for a long time too. Because Tom Brady was the same type of guy too. He didn't really want to change helmets. It wasn't until they found a certain one,
that he was willing
a couple
to.
years ago, that he was willing to change. And I think that's just some of the things with these guys getting out of their comfort level.
That's the thing too about like the top 4 helmets that are new, specifically made for certain positions because it's the most impacted positions.
Yes.
So kudos to the NFL still doing their work and trying to develop more safety equipment for them to look for, and also the variety. Like there's a big variety now of NFL approved helmets now for these either different positions or just all together for the general football athlete. there's all better options now. And it's like almost like choosing your favorite weapon. They have a wide selection that are in the green category, if you will, the top-notch category. So there's a pretty big selection where you can choose and be comfortable with picking that helmet and knowing that it's passed rigorous testing, it's gone through all the checks and balances, and is ready to go. It's definitely gonna help prevent from anything happening to you, especially concussion-wise and whatnot. You know, Tua should be in the front of the line here for one of these helmets,
right? Yes.
because it's a major concern still for him going forward. And we're hearing out of Miami that they would like to get an extension done with Tua.
Yes.
So if he's going to continue his career, he better be the first one to get one of these helmets for sure, amongst other players. I know some people were kind of asking the question too about these helmets, like, oh, well, now that these are new and improved, will they withstand negative 30-degree wind chill with what happened with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, how his helmet cracked? I got news for you. Mother Earth is sometimes a bitch, and negative 30-degree winds, it would probably crack any helmet. So they're still going to be safe and whatnot. And just like you mentioned, Jim, I thought it was kind of funny how when you brought that up about players, the reason why most of them aren't using those high-end ones is because of how it looks, whether it be how it looks on them or just how it looks altogether, is kind of funny. Because as a player, wouldn't you think like, hey, listen, there's a lot of players getting concussions nowadays. There's a lot of players, possibly maybe even worse, that it happens to them after they're done playing. Maybe I should wear the helmet, not because it looks stupid, but maybe because it might save my life one day. You know what I mean? So I hope that more and more athletes decide to go up with these more improved helmets and just who cares what it looks like?
Yeah.
And I get the comfort part though. That's different.
Yeah.
Cosmetic, that doesn't make sense to me. But comfort, there has to be somewhat comfortable in order to have it for 60 minutes in a game. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we've all seen players with helmet heads. You know what I mean? When they take the helmet off, a lot of guys with hair, it kind of looks all goofy and whatnot.
Yeah. Or they get their faces pushed in their foreheads and everything and stuff too.
They're kind of bleeding on their forehead and whatnot. So that's got to be part of it. But hopefully a lot of these athletes, a lot of these professional football players go up with these upgraded helmets, at least give them a shot and see the impact that they can make as far as safety-wise.
Right, and it's funny too. I could even see if you look at the one aspect of it too. For me, I would be like some of these newer brands. Like when we were growing up, again, we saw it was all Riddell. You know what I mean? That was it.
Shut.
You know,
that was another one.
Now Shut is dropping down off. They're on the bottom of the list, and a lot of theirs even
school.
getting
They're
kicked
old
out.
School.
Riddell's at the top here. Zenith, Light, Gladiator.
Never heard of her.
And I think it's called VCs, VICIS. See, I've never heard of this. So I'm sure players too are like, well, I've never heard of that company. Are you guys sure? I mean, it's going through the vigorous testing.
Obviously.
But, you don't know sometimes. You know what I mean? You're like, I don't know, man. I've always kind of done this. And
the other part of it too is some players grow attached to a company.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So like there's some athletes, even in the NBA, they only wear Nike.
Yeah.
Or they only wear Adidas or Reebok, whatever.
Yep.
Same thing happens in football where they might have grown up most of their lives where I went to college. The major sponsor was Adidas. So all I wear is Adidas. I don't care if it's Nike or not. This is what I like. And it can go other directions too. But like, that's what I wonder is if if some of these players are kind of like mentally confined to the idea of, well, I only wear Nike or I only wear Riddell or I only wear Shut. But now Shut is out the window pretty much. So it's like you're going to be forced to pick something else.
Yeah.
You might as well convert to some of these better helmets and it has to be a level of comfort and safety that meets the player where it works both ways. So I know some of those helmets, like you mentioned, are not as comfortable, but the protection is superior. So how uncomfortable is it? You know what I mean? Like, is it just a little bit annoying because when you have it on, it feels like your head is being compressed or something?
Right.
Or is it like that is it kind of painful at all for wearing it a long period of time?
And the thing is, for me too, before we move on, I think because I haven't seen any real images of some of these newer ones though too. Mm-hmm. What do they look like? Do they make it kind of look like it's a bigger crown up here? You know what I mean? That makes it kind of not aesthetically
like a
because
bubble
seen
head.
even with some of the ones that the guys are wearing now, they're a little sleeker.
Yeah,
they've got some of the vented holes in them. So
those are a little different
to see
too.
how they're going to look for the league, because the league's evolving, it's changing. We've seen it, the old school guys with just the one bar going across to what we have up here to now, and it's all crazy.
Well, Nick
so
Bosa,
maybe some, they're looking space age looking, but they're more blind size.
Nick Bosa has one of the kind of newer ones.
Yes, it seems like,
but it looks like a Power Ranger helmet.
Yes, it does.
So,
it does
I mean, so it's like maybe some of them just cosmetically look a little funky and weird to people,
maybe
where they're
that's
like,
what it is.
I don't know if I want to wear that. Who cares?
Right.
It's still the same color as your team. It still does the same. It actually does better than what you used to wear.
Right. I think if it's your safety and you're able to play at your best with it, it doesn't matter. I mean, we've seen, I think it was it Freeney or was it, trying to remember there was a pass rusher that played with smaller
shoulder pads. Yeah,
just so they can get through quicker.
More mobile.
Right. It was easier. I can't remember.
Freeney might have been one of them at least.
Because that's what they said. They I could get in quicker. And I always wore the smaller pads.
It doesn't constrict you as much.
Exactly. So, and he just did that. You know what I mean? It looked kind of funny, but it worked for him.
It didn't matter. Did it?
Yes.
Guy had sacks.
As long as you perform. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, some of those changes highlighting right now with the league right now there's not a whole lot going on besides everybody focusing on the draft. Mm-hmm. And, some of these other headlines people are trying to come up with, like,
they're ridiculous.
Redraft this, that, and the other thing, and what if, and then what if that. But yeah.
You know what? I have one pet peeve about some of the I don't know, amateur scouts or people that do what we do. Like we do our own scouting. We try to do our best. We're not inside the facility, so we don't get a lot of the information that these teams do, obviously, but we're trying to make our best projected look of what we view the player as for whatever team. Mm-hmm. So they do these quick reaction videos right after the pick or right after the draft and give it a grade. Like somehow they know what the player's going to turn out to be in 3 years for that team. Or maybe he's not on that team. He's somewhere else. So my problem is that the quick reaction for a lot of these, whatever the pick is made, is they're already reacting to the draft after it happens. Like literally right after the draft is complete, they're going to be like, that's a bad pick because of this. How can you give it a grade? The guy hasn't stepped foot on the football field, hasn't played a snap. Right. And you're already judging the player.
Yeah. Well, I think what's worse is now they're actually doing ones where they regrade former drafts. It's like, how do you regrade something after you already know the outcome? You know what I'm saying? Well, now that's terrible. I mean, we kind of look at it.
That's a little bit better.
I know, I get it in a sense because we kind of do that after the third year.
We don't grade it, though.
We don't regrade it, though. It's like, this is where we effed up. This is where were you doing it. I just think it's kind of funny. We've got Mike Tackett is in the house.
OG know-it-all. He says, give me liberty or give me CTE. Antonio Brown said this.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Antonio
Brown has said a lot of different stuff.
And has done a lot of different things.
He said that he was the owner of the Empire, but then he said he wasn't the owner of the Empire.
He contradicted himself a few times. And then when he was questioned, he was like, oh, yeah, I'm the owner. And they're like, oh, okay,
who I am?
Will you do this, that, and the other? Oh, no, that's not me.
No,
that's not me.
No, that's some other guy. Yeah, I don't owe money.
It wasn't me.
Yep, it wasn't me. Yeah, you're Shaggy.
That's right.
But yeah, a lot of stuff going on. And speaking of the draft, I know we want to pose this question out here, and this might seem like a dumb question to you guys out there, but there's been a lot of different things. Because I even Googled a lot of this. This question or certain things about quarterbacks in the first round, and there's a lot of different. I mean, there's too much that I could even post stats on here, but a lot of different data shows a lot of different types of things.
Right.
And is it worth drafting a quarterback in the first round here for teams?
Okay.
And hopes of finding that franchise quarterback because one, we've seen throughout history now, the Cleveland Browns have been the team that have drafted the most quarterbacks in the first round. Look where their franchise is. They're still looking for a quarterback even after they traded away draft picks to go get, a franchise quarterback from the Texans. And so far, it hasn't really panned out for them. And I'm not saying that Deshaun Watson isn't, a franchise quarterback, that he's terrible, but with the injuries and things that have happened and him taking the time off, so far it hasn't even worked out for them. But on the opposite side, them drafting as a franchise has not really helped their franchise at all.
Yeah, they've done a poor job of drafting, period. They've missed on just about every single one. You know what I mean? Like they haven't been able to pick one that high in the draft and say, well, he's our guy for the next 10 years. It just hasn't happened or worked out for them. And there's a lot of variables for that, right? When you think about it, like it could be maybe a head coach in particular, an offensive-minded head coach is in the room and saying, GM, I really want this guy. I can work with him. I like him a lot. Bring him in, draft him for me. Maybe you might be influenced as a GM, like, okay, well, I want this thing to work, so I'm going to give him who he wants. I like him too, but I'm not in love with him. I kind of like him, but I'll give him because he wants him. Mm-hmm. Then there's the other way. GM doesn't care what the coaches think. The GM's like, this is my job too. I'm taking the guy that I think is going to fit us best, and then he misses. You know what I mean? And then you got the other caveat of the owner getting the final say, which is not a good thing, and might lead you to missing out on some potential talent. So with all that put together, and it also comes down to wherever the rookie goes into, what situation he goes into. Mm-hmm. Are you going into an absolutely terrible situation where there is no O-line? There's maybe one wide receiver to throw to. There's no running back to hand the ball off to. It's such a bad situation that you're doomed to fail until they build around you, and then maybe we can see. And then by that time, in the modern time right now for the NFL, you get 2 or 3 years to prove yourself. After that, it's it. We didn't see enough from you. We haven't won enough games. We're gone. Coach, GM, you're fired. Quarterback is still there. New regime comes in. You're not our guy. So we're going to go draft another quarterback. And you're done. So it's like there's this vicious cycle for a lot of bad drafting teams that it almost it has to terrify you as a fan. If you're a fan of the Browns or the Colts or whatever, where it hasn't worked out a lot for you, to where it's like you're almost doomed. Like you almost get into a sense of feel where, man, maybe we don't take a quarterback or that position from the first round, and we look maybe in the second round instead. Because we've struck out so many times. Is it really worth to try to swing and miss again? So there's two things for me. I guess in closing, what I'll say is it worth taking a quarterback early? Yes, if you're up there. Because there's not a lot of times you're going to be picking in the top 3, top 5. It's kind of rare unless you're really that bad of an organization to be there that often. So if you're already there, I say you're already there. You don't have to trade picks. You might as well do your best and take the best prospect that you think fits you, and then move on with the rest of the draft. But on the other hand, if you're a team that I would say is a average team, you have an okay offensive line, you have a couple of weapons that you can throw to, you have a halfway decent running back. None of them are great, but it's good. It's okay. And the only thing you're really missing, got a good defense, pretty solid. It's not great, but it's solid. And you think you're a quarterback away from changing your team around to win the division and then maybe see where you go in the playoffs. Package picks, then it's worth to package and trade up and get your guy. The third part of it is if you're a team that is not ready to win now, if you're a team that has several holes on both sides of the ball and you still have a need at quarterback, but you're like, are we really ready to win now? Probably not. Then I say, don't trade up. Don't try to get a quarterback now. Work on the rest of your team this draft and then see what happens for next offseason. Because maybe next offseason you might be better prepared, especially if you hit in the draft. and you fill some holes along the way in this draft, then next season comes and you're like, man, we got the number 10th defense in the league. Our offense is actually in the teens, pretty decent. Man, if we get a quarterback, that could put us over the hump. Now you do what you need to do to go get your guy. So there's like 3 different ways to attack it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, and it's not like we haven't seen teams that haven't had the quote unquote franchise quarterback make it to the Super Bowl on defense alone or whatnot and get there and do something with it. I mean, again, everybody brings back, the Baltimore Ravens when they beat my New York Giants and stuff like that, and the fact, they didn't have really a quarterback there,
Trent Dilfer.
Trent Dilfer. Everybody's like, well, Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl.
Yeah. Riding the coattails of
your
defense.
idea, it ends up working. People try to pin that even on Eli Manning. I mean,
really?
I've seen this argument. It was even this past week because somebody, I'm not sure, but it was on one of the football groups that we are part of, tried to put Romo to Eli side by side in stats, but then also it was a Cowboys fan, of course. It's no surprise that they do this all the time because, and then when it was an argument, it was either, teams win championships or teams win Super Bowl, all this other crap, but never really gave real information. But put the stats back and forth. Eli had a certain amount of fourth quarter comebacks. Romo had a good amount, but in less games or whatever. So it was this big whole thing. But when it came down to the Super Bowl and stuff like that, he's like, he rode the defense to win that Super Bowl.
Did they watch the Super Bowl?
Did they watch it? Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. Because again, without those moments, those great moments that Eli Manning had within that game, there is no championship.
No, because Eli Manning had to make a play.
Make plays.
A couple plays. And they were gigantic plays. Mario Manningham running down the sideline, tiptoeing. I mean, stretched all the way out, over the shoulder catch as he falls out of bounds. Amazing catch, but was an incredible throw too. While he was almost being sacked, by the way.
Yes.
Guy had a handful of jersey. He broke loose and let that thing rip. Yep. And made a crucial first down on that play. So, and then obviously the touchdown throw that came later, it was impressive. So, yes, their argument is right in the fact of championships are won by your team. Yes. Because everybody collectively has to do their job in order to win. But quarterback is the most important position out of all of them. Mm-hmm. If you don't have that quarterback position kind of taken care of, then I will say nowadays it's extremely, almost rare to even have a winning record without that. Mm-hmm. But back in the day with the Ravens, the 2000 Ravens, when they had that, I mean, that defense, it's hard to describe to the younger audience that how impressive and how good that defense was. Yes. If you have some spare time, check out the 2000 Baltimore Ravens defense and what they were able to do. Because let me tell you, there's not one, there's several Hall of Famers on that defense.
Right.
And they all played together, and they were near impossible to move the ball on, let alone score.
Yeah, and for me, you know what's funny? Like, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I thought it was strange that Brian Billick didn't get more coaching opportunities after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Didn't you see? He kind of went into being an analyst or whatever here and there, working for networks.
Yeah.
But he wasn't like one of those guys like with Sean Payton. We gotta get Sean Payton back. Gruden's got he's an option. He's got to come back to coaching.
Right.
He wasn't one of those guys that they reached out to said, yeah, we got to bring Brian Billick back. But I thought if you didn't even have Brian Billick, even though you had Rex Ryan in that defense, things like that, I thought, especially in his analysis of games after, in his career after football, I thought it was amazing still.
Yeah,
I thought it was interesting. It was puzzling, I guess, to me that he wasn't offered more opportunities. Maybe he wasn't just turned them down though.
I could see that, but at the same time, like something tells me that he's a Baltimore Raven through and through, and that when that reign ended, he was perfectly comfortable with retiring and moving on from the game of football. And I say that only because I didn't hear any rumors I heard rumors of teams being interested in him, but I never heard him like take interviews, traveling to a city to take an interview or anything like that. He's kind of like he took a TV job and did that after he retired from football, and then now he's pretty comfortable. He's pretty set. So maybe that was it. Maybe it was just a decision after he decided to retire. He's like, I don't really have any need to do coaching. I've won a Super Bowl. I did everything I wanted to do as a coach. I'm content. So maybe that is it. I agree with you, though. Was still a very, very good head coach. Yeah. And I thought for sure he was going to go elsewhere, if not stay in Baltimore.
Yeah, I know I kind of went off topic on that one, but
it's okay.
Again, it makes you think about some of those stuff, though, because I'm sure a lot of people have the same sentiment.
Especially Ravens fans.
Yeah, and when you look at like the quarterbacks being drafted in the first round, you talked about it, even franchises. The Colts being one of them. Yeah. The Bears being one of them.
They're there again.
Yes, absolutely. What was one of the other ones? But
there's several of them. It's not like there's only just a few.
It's the same type of thing again, and so maybe it is even the way franchises are.
Maybe
Washington
you don't
see some of these
might be up there. Maybe.
I think they are kind of up there as well too, because even if you look back at their franchises and how successful they were when they did make Super Bowl runs. Who did they even have when they did it? You know what I'm saying?
True.
Then you're looking at it and you're like, well, how successful were they with those guys, and who's their best quarterback of all time? Even the Jets are up there.
The Jets.
The Cardinals. Cardinals again.
Oh yeah.
Their successful run when they went to the Super Bowl again was Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner was not drafted.
No,
by
he was bagging groceries.
He was bagging groceries, but then picked up by the Rams.
Right.
And then was a Giant and, was a Cardinal and things like that,
Yep.
It moved around. So they found the guy who was already a proven commodity to fit in their system to get them where they needed to go. When you look at the Bears, again, for me, unfortunately, I guess, for me, the only thing I can think of is Jim McMahon, at least for the Bears. That's the only thing last time I knew, because that was the last time I think they went to the Super Bowl, besides Rex Grossman. Besides Rex Grossman years and going on defense. And
I would say, and here's the other thing too, is like, as far as drafted go, I think McMahon's the last great quarterback of theirs.
Of theirs, right?
Because the one other name that kind of popped in my head, but I know he wasn't drafted by Chicago, was Jay Cutler. That was actually halfway decent for them.
Right. A lot of people don't even know that he played for the Broncos.
And the craziest thing about Jay Cutler is that the fans hated him. He actually played pretty well for them, and then the fans and the organization turned against him, and he got sent him right out the door. Like, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Right. And Jim Harbaugh, another one, for them.
Yeah.
So maybe another known, but again.
I could get really into Jim Harbaugh right now, because I'll tell you right now, I've been watching a few TV series on Jim Harbaugh and the dark side of Jim Harbaugh. Let me tell you. He's a character, for one, and for two, absolute lunatic. But we got my brother's chiming in. Brandon DeCapita is in the house. What's going on, bro? How you doing down there in the great
hell is
state
he even
of
saying?
Florida?
What up?
He probably cursed a lot and said, "What up?"
All right.
So
awesome. Hey, it's a pleasure seeing you, man. It's been a while, man.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
The season's kicking up. Pretty soon.
He's an Atlanta Falcon fan.
Yes, he's probably excited.
Now that he's got Kirk Cousins, I got to ask him, like, how are you excited to have Kirk Cousins, a legit quarterback now in Atlanta, to team him up with some of the young weapons that you have right now in the building? That's got to be a little exciting there. And then, what do you think they're going to do, Brandon, with that number 8 pick? Because that's another interesting thing about Atlanta, is now that they got their quarterback and it's proven. Now it's like, what direction do you go? What direction do you need, and what direction do you go with that 8th pick? Because at 8, you probably got the pick of the litter of what you need to fill the hole. Like cornerback is one need. You could go offensive tackle. You could go. You could even go. I don't put it out of the realm of possibility. You could go offensive weapon. You could go another wide receiver with one of these top 4 receivers that are going to be available. You could go that route, or you could go defense. Or you go edge rusher, because I know Atlanta's having an issue with edge rusher. Brandon said, I'm excited but guarded. I understand. He said, I need edge at 8th pick. So he would like an edge player at number 8. and we kind of did get into it last week. We gave you our rankings for a lot of the defensive linemen, and some edge players are mixed in there. But it's going to be interesting to say the least. So you got Brandon here, who's an Atlanta Falcon, wants an edge player. But would you be against the idea of possibly going top corner, possibly going top end wide receiver again? Or do you think that that's you don't want that as a fan, and you definitely want to try to get the edge? Because we talk about history of teams struggling to draft quarterback.
Yeah.
The Atlanta Falcons have a history of
they're one
struggling
of the top teams too, as
with
well.
edge rushers, not quarterback,
but
edge
even,
rushers.
at times, even quarterback.
Edge rusher's been the worst
yes.
because for several straight years they've always picked edge rusher in the first round, and they've always turned out to be busts. So got to be kind of careful. So he says cornerback is the only other choice in my opinion. Okay, so there you go. So if corner it is, I'll tell you right now, you're going to have most likely you'll have your pick of the litter at corner. You'll get whoever you want, whoever you think fits best. So that could be an option as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. It's coming up, Joe.
Definitely. I'm
I think
super
that
excited,
was
bro.
even a good lead through. You want to get into your top 10
All right,
list
let's do it.
now? Let's do
do
it.
it.
So here we go.
I'm
It's
down.
going to be Joe's top 10s list. This week we are doing tight ends, running backs, and DBs. What do you want to start off with first here, Joe?
We gotta
What do we
start.
got?
Let's get rid of the tight ends because it's so paper thin. It's going to bore the hell out of me to talk about it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I remember even tight ends last year were
That
pretty
was
interesting.
deeper, honestly.
It was pretty interesting.
There was more
Yes.
potential there.
Yes.
This one is not. Like
This is totally opposite.
I'll tell you this right now. Like I said it earlier in the show, right?
Yeah.
My top two are like, if you want to categorize them as can't miss, you can.
Yeah.
Like they're both a little bit different from each other, but they're both going to be really good tight ends at the next level. The next two are solid all around, can block, can go out for passes and whatnot, and maybe even one of them is maybe kind of a little bit injury riddled a little bit, but if he can stay healthy, he'll be amazing. After that, Cliff. Talent right down.
God, who
You're talking about third day selections. That's what we're talking about then. So, all right, let's get right into
That being
this.
said, here we go, Joe. Here's your 2024 NFL Draft Top 10 tight ends list.
That's it. Number 10, I have Jaheim Bell from Florida State. Jaheim Bell, I have him listed as a tight end, but at the next level, I'm not really sure where he's going to play because he's 6'2", 240, which is very small for a tight end. And he can't block in line. He's not going to be that. So he's short for the position. He's small for the position. So what do you do with him? Do you use him as potentially a bigger power back, like a running back, a guy that can move the chains type of thing, bring him in short yardage? That's possibly something for him. But I also have a question mark about him, about his intensity. Like, how aggressive is he? Because if he can't block and he's basically seen as only a receiving threat, I'm not so sure he's going to be all that. I just don't know. So I have him as low as 10 for me. And I think at the next level, some team is going to fall in love with his athletic ability, and they're like, we'll figure something out. So I got him at 10. Number 9. Number 9, I have old man Jack Westover from Washington. And I call him old man because this guy he's close to 30. Like this guy, I don't know how he stayed in college so long.
So he's like the Taysom Hill type of?
He's like the Stetson Bennett of tight ends.
Yes.
So
That's right, yes.
He's been in college for so long, it's probably illegal. And but that all being said, because it's so thin, he gets the number 9 spot because he doesn't do anything extremely well, but he does everything solid. So he's average. So I saw him in Washington go out for a lot of passes. He can block a little bit here and there. He's got decent size. So that's why he ends up at 9, because this tight end group sucks.
Brandon maybe wants some special teams guys, but maybe some of these guys would be the guys on the special
I'm
teams.
listing them off right now,
They're all
bro.
right. These are
Right
the
now.
special teams guys.
Number 8, this is a little intriguing prospect for me. Number 8, I love this guy, Tip Ryman from Illinois.
I like
He
the name.
is the epitome of inline blocking. And you think, oh, well, inline blocker, can't normally really run. But let me just tell you about the tip man here. He is probably more athletic than I thought he would be. He is 270 as a tight end, which is definitely way higher than pretty much everybody in this class in terms of weight. But he is a guy that ran I want to get the stat right. He ran a 4.6 at 270 pounds. So he's 6'5", 270, can block like anybody else. Like amazing size, amazing straight line speed. But I think that's all he has. When it comes to quickness, I think he struggles a little bit in and out of breaks in terms of receiving. But he is a big tight end and somebody that I think could end up developing into possibly a starter down the road. So I'm excited for his future. Possibly, maybe he can turn into something special for somebody. But nonetheless, he's not a polished product. To say the least. So still needs further development. Other than that, we move on to my number 7. Number 7 is your alum, Michigan guy, A.J. Barner. Now, A.J. Barner, earlier in this process, I had him like kind of in the top 5. I really was kind of excited, and I still think he could maybe turn out to be like that. But at Michigan, as you know, was purely used a lot of the time in blocking to create running lanes for the running back there, Blake Corum. And he was great at it. The receiving part of his game lacks a little bit. Like he is athletic. He is very tall. He's big, but the problem with him is at the next level, I feel like he's going to have issues getting separation because he's a little stiff in his hips or whatever to try to like make breaks and get open that way. He is 6'6", 250. So kind of like the average height almost, or not average height, a little bit above average height. He's got a little below weight or average weight, if you will, for tight end. So I kind of only see at the next level, I don't know if he's going to just be a blocker or if he's going to develop the receiving part of his game at the next level. So that's why he falls in at 7 for me. Number 6, and this is kind of like I had a little bit of a man crush on this guy earlier in the scouting combine process. Because this dude is not just he starts to come and then he pulls out. He's not just the tight. He's a gigantic tight end. Like, first of all, you look at his size and you're like, holy shit, is this Rob Gronkowski in a Penn State uniform? Like, this guy looks super impressive. 6'6", 260 pounds, damn near close measurables as Rob Gronkowski. His 40 time was ridiculous for his size. He ran a 4.57. That is ludicrous. Elite grades in terms of that. Elite grades in get off. His athletic ability is through the charts. Like, this guy looked extremely special. I'm like, holy crap, this guy could be a steal. Someone could get themselves something very special here. But man, when you watch him on tape, the thing that I struggle with is I don't see the explosion. I don't see the get off. Like, dude, you're fast and big. Show it. Like, surprise people. And you don't see that at Penn State very much. It's kind of sluggish, I would say. It looks like I don't know if he's just not in the game or what have you, or doesn't think the ball's coming to him. So maybe that's why on some of the routes he looks like kind of disinterested, I would say. But man, if you could get this guy kind of tuned in and focused, he could end up being a really good player that you're going to get into middle to late rounds. So I'm excited for Theo Johnson, but he's got further development to do, and he's got to start focusing on what he really wants in football, because he's either going to do one of two things. He's like kind of my boomer bust prospect. You can't teach size. He's got it. You can't teach straight line speed. He's got it for his size. It's incredible. But what you can teach is like better route running. Get him to catch more. He actually has big hands. He can catch almost anything out of the air, pluck it right out of the air. So it's like, get this guy dialed in. If you do that, you could get yourself a potential steal here. And that's kind of like what I'm excited about Theo Johnson for. So we'll see what he does. After Theo Johnson, we get into the top 5 now. Ben Sinnott from Kansas State. Ben Sinnott is a way better receiving tight end than a lot of people in this class, which isn't hard to do. But the only knock on Ben is the fact that he has very short arms. At the next level, he can't block for you. He's going to get engulfed by DNs. Like you're not blocking Nick Bosa. You're not blocking or you're not even helping to block. You'll just get thrown away. So that's one major concern I have for Ben is that he's going to be a one-trick pony. He'll be a receiving threat for you at tight end. Do not ask him to block. He won't be able to. And he's not the biggest tight end. He's kind of short. He's got short arms. So really, he's just a receiving threat. And even saying that, I'm not so sure if he's going to do that well at the next level. College, he was able to take a lot of advantage of defenses that they play. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure at the next level he's going to be that much of an impact. So he's a 5. Number 4. This is where this is the top 4 where I kind of get really excited for the future for these guys. I really think these guys could turn into at least solid starters, if not ball maker. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. These guys are just going to ball out. Mm-hmm. So Eric All at 4 from Iowa. And I'm like, I didn't hear anything about this guy at first. I'm like, who the frick is this dude? Like, I never even heard his name. I've never even seen, I don't even know if I saw him on the football field, when I watched some of the college football games. And I'm like, so I did some digging and I'm like, holy crap, this dude how come no one's talking about this guy? Eric All is probably the next. He has the potential. I can't say that. Like, he's not the next great, but he has the potential to be the next great tight end coming out of Iowa. We all look at Iowa and we think George Kittle. Mm-hmm. Well, this dude, Eric All, has that potential. He has the potential to be a pretty big stud at the next level if a couple things go right for him. He's got the height, he's got the size, he's got blocking ability, he's got tremendous receiving ability. He's very fluid of an athlete, can bend, can move, is quick, is fast, all that. Can catch the ball out of the air. The one thing that might hold him up, now 3 years ago, he had back surgery, right? It was kind of serious. They got it taken care of. 2 years down the road, up to this season, that hasn't come back to haunt him. But now this past year, what's going to kind of drop him down the draft is he tore his ACL. And for me, my opinion, you tear your ACL, that shouldn't drop you in the draft. Mm-hmm. People come back from ACLs. It's common now in the NFL. So, but some teams freak out because he's injured. So he might slide in the draft, and maybe they're even also worried about that back injury, rearing its head later on down his career. Mm-hmm. So if he can stay healthy, that's really it. If he can stay healthy, he could be a huge, huge playmaker for whoever takes him. Mm-hmm. Number 3. This is a guy that you probably know well because your team played against Ohio State, and Cade Stover. Mm-hmm. Cade Stover, believe this, I was actually kind of surprised about this, is that Cade Stover wasn't always a tight end. Cade Stover has actually played D-end. He's played, they asked him to play fullback at some point, and then ended up as a tight end the last couple of years. So this guy's kind of gone around. Oh, linebacker. That was the other one.
Mike Tackett would probably know about it. He's a big Ohio State guy.
So he has this intensity about him. He's very he has this linebacker mentality. He doesn't give a shit what you think. He's like an aggressive, bruising type of tight end. He blocks well. He has limited athletic ability a little bit, but what's impressive about him is that he's going to give everything he's got every single snap. Mm-hmm. He's got big hands. He catches everything. He might have, at the next level, he might have an issue getting separation unless it's zone where he can kind of find that spot, the soft spot and sit and catch the ball and run after catch. But he is looking to dominate people. Mm-hmm. He wants to put people in the ground with a stiff arm, run through them, lower the shoulder, all that. So Cade Stover is going to be a real physical player at the next level. Yeah. Number 2, these two, I feel like whoever takes them are going to be the starters going forward. Jatavian Sanders from Texas, very athletically gifted type of tight end, very fast. Like, first of all, he's probably like the fastest or close to the fastest player in this draft. But he's very athletic too. He makes moves that he shouldn't be able to make. He's 6'4", 245, little on the light end in terms of tight end, but really you're not bringing this guy in to block. You're just not. But he's a gifted receiving threat. And we see it all the time with these receiving tight ends that come in and like, oh, well, he can only do one thing. But if you can do that one thing extremely well where it makes it a mismatch, then teams are going to add you to their offense, and we got an extra weapon. So Jatavian Sanders is just that. He's going to be an extra weapon for whoever takes him. I see him going in like maybe the second round, where a Cade Stover and Eric All probably go in the middle rounds at some point, not at second, maybe fourth, fifth. And then our next one, our number one, is probably the consensus pick for tight end. There's no question about it. And yeah, he can't block either. But what he can do, Brock Bowers from Georgia, this kid is electric. Like, as much as I kind of hyped up Sanders and how athletic he is and quick he is and all that, and he makes moves, Brock Bowers is 6'3" and 240. So you're like, okay, well, what you said that about another tight end that he's only 240. I'm like, yeah, but this guy, he's faster than you would think. He runs a 4.5, by the way. He runs a 4.5 40 as a tight end and moves like a wide receiver. Like, it doesn't make any physical sense at all what this kid can do. And he played multiple positions at Georgia. He played tight end because that was his position. But they also moved him out in the slot as a wide receiver, and even do screens with him and they chip blocked with him and all these different variations on the offense. This kid was the focal point of Georgia. He really was. And we all know that Georgia University has a ton of talent every single year. But this dude was the go-to guy. It wasn't a wide receiver on the outside. It was Brock Bowers. So very, very tough kid. Fast, quick, athletic. But he moves like a wide receiver. So some people are even coming around to the idea at the next level, like you could put him in as a receiving off-the-ball type of tight end. You could also utilize him in the slot as a pure wide receiver. That's what they're saying. Yeah. And with a guy this kind of size, he's a hybrid. Really, he's a hybrid wide receiver that is bigger than you think. Imagine going against a third string corner and you're like, I gotta fucking block this dude. Mm-hmm. He's twice the size of me. He's going to throw me off with one arm and keep going. So that's the excitement about Brock Bowers. Everybody has him as their number one. And there's a lot of people that are excited about the potential of what he could do at the next level, whether it be you keep him in the slot, you mix it up, or just keep him at tight end. So there you have it.
Yeah, and it's definitely interesting to see what teams might be best fits for tight ends, because a lot of teams go tight end heavy on some of these drafts. You know what I mean? When they're a team that already has kind of everything or whatever, or just kind of known to go for those tight ends. Like you said, utilize a guy that could be even another wide receiver for you. What about even the Jets? The Jets go and grab somebody like that for Aaron Rodgers. He's always been one of those guys who had always had, somebody, a tight end to dish it down to, somebody that he trusted, a type that he liked. You know what I mean? Teams like that, the Vikings have gone for tight ends, things like that. Just like with the Baltimore Ravens and Andrews and stuff, Mark Andrews. Right. It's interesting to see where some of these guys are going to pan out and do some of this stuff.
This is the craziest thing about the draft. As much as we all think we know exactly what these players are going to turn out to be, a guy like Mark Andrews didn't get drafted high.
Right.
He developed and turned into the player he is now. So some of these guys, maybe like a Eric All that we kind of mentioned, but if everything goes right, he could be one of the next great tight ends in this game. So we don't know where exactly how well they're going to turn out, but what we do is we can give our best guess and see what happens 3 years down the road.
It's definitely interesting to see what happens after the fact and see where we guessed on this and where we landed.
Maybe that's something we should do when we do our mock draft right before the draft. Maybe that's something else we should do is go back 3 years and look at our top 10 rankings
where we were.
and see how far off or how close we were, or the reason why, man, I missed on this player. I had him at 2 and he's a bust. Like, what was I looking at? You know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to say the least.
Absolutely. At least when we go to do our review of the drafts, when we go to do it 3 years past, we would bring up some of the things if I could find the data of what we picked.
Oh,
you
we
know,
can.
how
We
were.
definitely can.
But here we go. Now that's your top 10 for the tight ends. Let's move on to some of the
right.
spicy positions down here. Let's go to
Thank
the.
God we're done with tight end.
Yes,
That's all I
yes,
gotta
right. There
say.
you go. Enough time on that. Here we go. Here's the running backs, Joe. Here, top 10 running backs coming out of this draft. Again, how, you know, with the I don't know what they call it, but the liquidation of running backs, or the importance of having that running back now, is it going to be affected in this draft again, and where some of these guys are going to go and how high they go?
No.
You know, I was kind of surprised. Even when, Bijan Robinson was even drafted here by the Falcons, stuff like that, because even, like you said, you could kind of follow these teams and what they traditionally kind of go for, even with a different, general manager in there. Sometimes it seems like teams generically or go for a certain type of player. And I was thinking even another wide receiver for Atlanta. Why not wide receiver again? Just that's what they do.
Might be this year.
So it's interesting. So where are these running backs going to lay? And let's see how you like these guys over here.
And that's the other thing too, is we actually called that. We called Bijan Robinson going to Atlanta, where a lot of people were like, "There's no way they're taking running back at the, in the first round." Okay, well, who's right? Yeah, we are. Anyway, and it's funny too. Like, everybody talks about.
You're gonna hear that a lot there in Atlanta now.
So that's the thing too, is it even goes back to like other players, right? Like last year even, everybody was on the Bryce Young train.
Yeah, right.
Everybody was on Bryce Young. He's the best since the last 10 years. He's got an arm. He's deadly accurate. He's mobile. He's super smart. He does everything well. You're not going to be able to stop this guy. And there was exactly night crickets now, right? And I understand it's only his rookie year. Maybe he's going to develop, and they do have to get better around him too. It's also about situation. So maybe he'll be what people thought he was going to be in a couple years, but we're still waiting to see. But knee-jerk reaction for rookies, we had C.J. Stroud above him. And there was some people that kind of jumped on the bandwagon late and said, well, maybe this could work. C.J. Stroud didn't only just beat out Bryce Young in his first year. He was the rookie of the year. He was... This is a rarity, folks. This does not happen, especially at quarterback, where he comes in and he looks like a veteran. Like he looks like a 10-year veteran and helped get his team to the playoffs in his first year as a quarterback. It's insane. So we thought he was going to be good, but man, I don't think we anticipated him being that good. So that just kind of, goes into our little tip of the cap, if you will, for nailing some of these prospects coming out versus the majority of the mass media.
Yeah, that's what we always try and stress. Voice your own opinion out there in the chat. Definitely tell us your opinion. What you guys think about anything out there. We will agree or we will disagree, and that's fine.
I would ask for everybody's comments on the tight end position group, but. Yeah, I don't know if too many people are going to have anything to say about that.
All right, so without further ado, Joe, let's get to your running backs list here. I flashed it quick, but let's get right into it.
Flashed it.
I flashed it.
That's right.
Right, running backs.
All right, so at number 10, I have Braylon Allen. Braylon Allen from Wisconsin. He just kind of barely made my top 10 because there's some things that you really love about him, and there's some things where you're like, come on, dude. Well, the positives I'll say is this. This kid is only 20 years old. That's one positive. Number two, this kid does not look like a kid. He looks like a Greek god at running back. He is not only tall, he is rocked up, like chiseled, and he looks and loves to run people over, stiff arm them. Like he's just a battering ram of a running back who's looking for destruction. And I love that about his game because that's kind of what I gravitate to. For me, my own opinion, I love rough, tough, big running backs that can break tackles and keep the chains moving. But saying all that and has huge potential, the negatives in his game is he can't move well laterally. He has a hard time shifting. He's not going to make anybody miss. He's a north and south runner, and that's it. Other than that, he has terrible vision. Absolutely terrible vision. You tell him to go through the A gap, he goes through the C gap for some reason. So it's like, because he just wants to hit people.
Yeah, he just wants to run.
So unless he gets to a team where the running backs coach is really good and they can further develop his vision or to know what to do and what not to do, get a role for him. Maybe it is just short yardage. Maybe that's what his role is going to be. So who knows? Or maybe he has the potential to end up becoming like one of these great juggernaut running backs, like a Peyton Hillis. And hopefully he's more than 1 year of production where he can just run through people and just keep breaking tackles and going. But that's the thing is like he needs a lot of development at the next level, especially. He didn't blow you away in Wisconsin. He should have. He should have like tremendous numbers because Wisconsin runs a lot. So you would think that he would have kind of exploded onto the scene and been one of these, maybe even a little higher end type of back, but he didn't. So that concerns me. But the one thing that's positive is, like I said, he's very young. He's going to come into this draft at 20 years old, and maybe you can develop the rest of his game. Number 9, I have a little bit of a jitterbug running back here, if you will. Bucky Irving from Oregon. I watched this guy one game, it kind of caught my eye. I was watching Oregon and Washington at the time. And this running back who is tiny, he's short. You can barely notice him over the offensive line. And he's like this he looks thin, but he is a little bit more muscular than you would think, tougher than you would think. But man, in the open field, this guy can make you miss like no other. Like he has made a lot of guys break their ankles and he's going for 6. Like he's fast, he's quick, super quick. And he's just like this guy, like a joystick. You know what I mean? He moves to the left, moves to the right so quick. And next thing you know, he's around you and he's up the field 10 yards before you even spin your head. So that is a part of his game that at the next level, he's going to find a role where whatever team takes him, that's what they're going to be looking for is a slasher type running back, a guy that's not real physical. He's not going to break tackles. A lot of times he goes down with an arm tackle. He is light framed and all that. Yep. But man, if you could get him through an open hole and watch him work in the open field, he could be something special for you. But I got him at 9. Number 8, I got Tyrone Tracy Jr. from Purdue. Interesting thing about Tyrone is that he is a converted wide receiver. So for the first 3 years of his college career, he played wide receiver. His last year, he played running back for Purdue. The interesting part is how well he plays running back, being a former wide receiver for them, and to be able to fill into that role and kind of like, dare you say it, Debo-esque type of guy because he has the build. He's solid. He's put together well. He's very dense. You know what I mean? And kind of like a Debo's physical features. But he's only had 1 year at running back. There's going to be some limitations with him, and definitely at the next level, he's got the physicality, he's got the speed, he's got the quickness. He even has better vision than you would think because he played receiver all those years. He's only played running back once, and pretty good at in terms of identifying the hole, exploding through it, and making a play. So Tyrone Tracy, even though he's got 1 year of productivity, he could develop into some maybe even a sleeper running back for somebody that they find him a role for him at the next level. Number 7, this is a guy that's not known by a lot of people, but Kamani Vidal from Troy. A little bit of a smaller school, but man, does this kid have it all. He's got quickness, he's got speed. He's kind of like almost like a Devontae Freeman type of running back where he's got all the attributes you would want in a running back, but at the same time, everyone's going to knock him for being at Troy and not going up against heftier competition. And you're going to see this with a lot of prospects this year, where some teams are going to love him regardless because he dominated. But then you're going to find other teams who are like, well, I don't know. I don't think we should take a risk because he's from a smaller school. But whoever does get this kid, he's going to be coming in there ready to work. He's definitely going to do what he has to do to get on the football field. And once he gets on there, I think it's going to be hard to get him off because you're going to see what he can do. So Kamani Vidal, kind of like an underrated type of running back for me, but I got him at 7. I think he can make a splash at the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, I have your guy, Blake Corum from Michigan. A lot of people have Blake Corum higher in the top 5, probably 4 or 3. I got him at 6 because there's something one thing that I love about Blake Corum is that he has tremendous vision. Somehow he finds a way to get through the offensive line, whether it be a mishmash of defensive players laying around, but he's got tremendous patience. And that's going to play off huge dividends for him at the next level, because that's something that comes way later for rookie running backs at the next level.
Yep.
He's got this nuance to his game where he almost looks like a Le'Veon Bell type. Doesn't have the same stature, but he has the patience. He has the vision like a Bell that at the next level is going to do well for him. And he's faster than you would think. He's a smaller type back, but he's still got power. He's still got that physicality about him. But again, there are times on his tape where, because of him being able to get 2 or 3 yards, it's almost like he should break a tackle, but doesn't. He might get tripped up in the trash. He might kind of slip up a little bit because he's like, oh crap, this actually opened up because I waited a second and now I'm trying to burst through, and then someone might just kind of catch him off guard, and then he kind of like he falls forward for 7 yards, but still.
Yeah. So
my thing at the next level for him is that he's not going to be able to be a 3-down back because he struggles with the blocking in the backfield. He did. Listen, he'll throw his body into anybody. It's not like he's scared or anything or can't do it, but it can be taught at the next level. So maybe he can develop that part of his game to stay out there. But again, I'm a little concerned with some of because he's kind of a lighter back. He's short, 5'8", lighter back kind of, but he's still physical. But at the next level, how much of a pounding is this kid going to be able to take when you got these bigger linebackers hitting him all the time, or defensive linemen, what have you? So that's why I kind of have him a little bit lower than some people. And that's just the question that I have about him. But a good talent nonetheless, for sure. Number 5, Ray Davis. Ray Davis is the opposite of that. Ray Davis is not only short, but man, this guy is 220. He is like 5'8", 5'7", even like 220. Hard to see across the offensive line, and when you manage to see him, he's already by you. He has tremendous explosion, and he moves cuts amazingly quick. For a guy his size, it's actually daunting to watch on film. He'll get through a hole, and then next thing you know, linebacker comes flying up. He takes a sidestep, and the dude's like, "Wait, what just happened? This guy's 220 pounds. He shouldn't be able to do that." He's not going to be a home run hitter. When he gets through the hole, whether it be clean or whatever, breaks a few tackles, he's not going to get through the hole and run for 60 yards for a touchdown. He doesn't have long speed, and that's kind of like where it is. He's a physical back, will break tackles, will do everything you need, can block, can catch out of the backfield, but that's the only limitation I see in his game, is the fact that he's not going to give you a home run ball and run for a touchdown deep. So people will catch up to him when he gets out in the open. And that's okay with me. As long as you can do everything else as a running back and do it well, and pass block, which is a big key for a lot of teams, I think that's why I have him at 5. I would love to push him up higher because he's just my type of dude. But I got him at 5 nonetheless because of talent ahead of him. Number 4, I have Jonathan Brooks from Texas. Now, I'm going to get a lot of backlash for this because number 4, Jonathan Brooks, a lot of people have him number 1. Don't get me wrong. Jonathan Brooks at the next level will be a starter for somebody, will be good for somebody. The only reason why I have him low at 4 is because I'm concerned injury-wise. I don't know how long this guy's going to be able to survive at the next level. He's had 2 big injuries in college. When he's healthy, though, he's a scary back, kind of like a very shifty back, like an Alvin Kamara. Mm-hmm. Like he's quick and fast. And there's another running back that's similar to him too, later on. But Jonathan Brooks, very quick, very shifty, fast. He's a playmaker. Once he gets out in the open, good luck. He's gone. He is gone. He's got 4.3 speed, and once he gets out in the open, it's going to be hard to catch up. So he's one of these guys that are going to look to break, and if he gets through, he's going to create a home run, for you. But that's why I have him lit at 4, because he kind of concerns me with the injuries that he's had in college. Mm-hmm. Number 3, another big back. And not just big in terms of like, oh, my God, this guy looks incredibly rocked up, like huge muscles from top to bottom, legs, arms, core, everything. He doesn't look the part. He's also kind of tall. He's got great size. He's damn near close to 230. He's like 225 or something like that. But, man, this kid he does things like some of these other backs that he shouldn't be able to do. He's got top-end speed, which was surprising at the combine. A lot of people anticipated him running like a 4.7. He actually ran a 4.5. It was incredible. Actually, he was faster than that. I'll have to try to look up the official 40 time here. But while I'm doing that, Marshawn Lloyd, very quick in terms of his lateral movement. He can plant his foot and be 2 yards to the left in no time. He's very good at making people miss, and he doesn't even have to do that because he's also a very physical back that loves to stiff arm people, loves to run through them, and he's big enough to handle the blocking, the pass blocking, and he catches phenomenal out of the backfield. That all being said, though, the one negative that I have for Lloyd is the fact that he always looks to try to make the big play. He always looks to try to bounce it back outside somehow. Mm-hmm. The play could be called to go run up the middle. Just run straight up the middle. We're going to create a hole. And even if there's someone there, run through them and get 2 yards because we need the first down. Yeah. And he runs up there, and it's not that open, and he's like, screw this. I'm bouncing it back outside. And sometimes he gets there, but a lot of the times he's not going to, especially at the next level. Mm-hmm. So whoever gets him is going to have to, like, listen, dude, if we tell you to run off tackle, run off tackle. If you see it completely closed, that's different. Then you have to change it up. But your job is to get 3-4 yards. You don't always have to get 20.
Yep. So his 40 time was 4.46.
Yeah,
by the way.
That's what I mean. It is insane what he was able to run. Mm-hmm. So a guy for his size too. Top end speed is incredible. So the only thing is he's got to start taking what's there. Mm-hmm. Bottom line, if he does that, he's going to have a great career at the next level. Number 2, Jalen Wright. This is the running back that I mentioned earlier about Jonathan Brooks. They're kind of similar running backs. They both do kind of similar things. They both have injury issues. But Jalen Wright is also another blockbuster playmaker if he gets out in the open. Another guy that can kind of take off and good night. Party's over. He's going to score. You're not catching up to him. So, and he's very similar to Brooks. Brooks, I feel like, is a little bit tougher, a little bit. But Wright is one of these guys that is very shifty, very quick. Throw the ball. Get the ball to him in space and just watch. Just watch what he can do. He'll be something special as well. But, again, got to stay healthy. And then number 1, number 1 running back is none other than Florida State running back Trey Benson. Now, Trey Benson, we've mentioned Lloyd, very physical. We mentioned Ray Davis, who's kind of like small, bowling ball. And we also mentioned guys like Jalen Wright and Jordan Brooks, explosive, home run hitters. Benson is kind of all of that in one. He is the physical guy. He is the guy. He doesn't pass catch as fluidly as these other ones, but I think he is definitely average or above average in terms of catching the ball. He needs to get better, though. But he can do everything else like these other guys. He can break tackles. He can make you miss. And his acceleration and speed is crazy. Like, it's just impressive for a guy his size, what he can do. And he has tremendous vision. So I like Benson a lot more than some people. There's some people that have him at 1, but not everybody does. It's not a consensus thing. But I really do like Benson's games because of the physicality he brings and everything else. So I got Benson at number 1.
All right, there you go. So it's a different look again, and you never know. I mean, again, what analysts pick and what's your flavor, what you think.
Right.
You know, and injuries, sometimes it does make a difference in where they're even drafted and what teams think. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're like, do I want to get this guy if he might get banged up? Because, you know, the longevity of a running back's career is even shortened right now too, and teams aren't willing to do that. Yeah. Look at what the Cowboys have gone from going in on a Zeke Elliott to screw it, Tony Pollard, you're in, to screw it, Tony Pollard, you had your little flash in the pan, peace. We're going out with Dowdy and these other dudes. So who knows? Maybe even if these guys are down here further, depending on where the placement goes, Dallas decides to take a shot at one of these running backs in here. I think they got to go wide receiver myself. For Dallas, just because again, CeeDee Lamb with the Brandon Cooks is a nice two tandem here, but then you got Tolbert behind there. What are they going to do here at wide receiver? So I think. The Dallas is kind of weird. Maybe they're going to shoot for that.
Dallas is kind of funny,
but
though.
Who knows?
Dallas is kind of funny because Jerry Jones loves splash picks.
Yes.
It's not necessarily the best pick,
right?
But he loves splash picks. Now, in the first round, you need to go offensive line. Cowboys have neglected that way too long, and now's the time, and now's the draft even to do that. But we all know Jerry. He might not go for the hog, if you will. He might go for the flash in the pan, the big time, big name, playmaker type of guy.
Right.
It might even be crazy where we might see something where he does something ridiculous where he takes like Trey Benson at running back in the first round or something. Just because they're picking low in the first round, that doesn't mean you need to do that. Wide receivers, there's tons of them. You can even wait till the second round to take a wide receiver, third round to take a good wide receiver. So you're right. They're a little unpredictable. We don't really know what they're going to do. And then the Cowboy fans are going to say, as soon as whoever gets picked, they're going to the Super Bowl once again.
But definitely for some running backs here, again, you brought up Corum and stuff. Again, maybe, with Jim Harbaugh there with the
that's what's
the Chargers,
interesting, right?
He could maybe go there again because they don't have Austin Eckler there anymore.
Yeah.
Giants, they've learned maybe not to do running back number one overall, but maybe later on one of these guys. Because again, you bring in Devin Singletary, but to kind of be familiar with your offense, but you obviously said, we're going to kind of move on from Sagan. We're not going to pay the big deal, but maybe we'll get another younger guy in here. We'll see what we got, because after Singletary, and we've even said it to Joe, that we don't believe Singletary is a main starter in this league, at least, for a team.
No. Not at all.
And I don't think anybody underneath him on that team, Gray and these guys are either. So if they could find one of these guys too to make it happen, I think it would be a good addition for them as well. So.
And I want to make it perfectly clear: all these running backs, even though we're giving you our top 10, this year, just like any other year, the running backs are still devalued. They are not going to get picked high. I know we kind of joked about Cowboys maybe taking them, but. You're not going to see.
I'm not even saying first round, but I'm just saying
you're not going to see
one of these
the first running back go until at least the third or fourth round. So there's going to be tremendous value if you need a running back at the end of day 2 and into day 3. And there's even more running backs than those top 10 that have talent and could come in and maybe do some things. So that all being said, I just wanted to kind of make that disclaimer that. There's not going to be one taken this year early. That's for sure.
Absolutely. All right, Joe. So that's all right. We're doing the top 10s here. We've covered the tight ends, the running backs, and now finally for tonight here, your other list here, we have the defensive backs all together. This is going to be an interesting one here because I think the talent is going to be off the charts here. Because you're mixing, corners and safeties and things like that. So I think it's pretty interesting. And we had a good list last year and everything. And I think you're going to see more of it this year as well.
Yeah, and here's a kicker, everybody.
You're throwing kickers in there now?
The top 10 defensive backs, they're all gone in 2 days. Mm-hmm. They're all going to be picked in the first 2 days of the draft, I feel like, because they're all starter-worthy type corners, or maybe even a safety, or they're guys that are going to be huge guys that even if they go to a team where they're kind of already established, but they're going to get on the football field. Like, they're going to be part of different packages, defensive packages, and get out there because they're that talented. So, and the list could be even bigger than this, by the way. This could be a top 30 list because that's how deep the defensive backs actually are. Not as much at safety, but corners galore. Mm-hmm. And we'll just start off right now at number 10. I have Mike Sanderstill from Michigan. Another Michigan Wolverine.
I like it, Joe. I like it.
Mike Sanderstill, let me tell you about this kid. At the next level, I do not view him as an outside corner, but I view him as a tremendous slot corner. A guy that, and that's much needed in today's NFL where they're doing 3 wide, 4 wide type of formations. You need a guy like this, a guy that's a shut down slot corner. At the next level, I do not see him testing outside, but man, is he going to be impressive with going up against the third wide receiver and nobody's getting open. Like, this dude is incredibly quick, incredibly fast, has everything that you would want in a solid corner that's just going to shut people down in the slot. That's what he's going to do. That's going to be his job at the next level. And you can't have enough of those guys because everybody goes to the outside corner. We need outside corner. Need outside corner. That's great and all, but your inside is getting chewed up, and you need someone to stop it. You stop the bleeding. This is going to be the guy. So Mike Sanderson from Michigan, he's not the biggest corner. He's a short corner, and that's why maybe some teams might knock him just for being shorter. I think it's bullshit. I think you shouldn't knock a corner based on his height, even though I get it from a metrics point of view. It's like, well, if we don't have the tall corner to match up with the tall wide receiver, we're at a disadvantage. Yes and no, because we've seen short corners that are 5'8", 5'10", that have latched on. You can't shake them, and they're right there, and they make wide receivers' lives difficult. So that's what I'm going with. I like Michigan. Mike Sanders still at 10. All right. Number 9, corner Jarvis Brownlee Jr. from Louisville. This kid is just not being talked about enough. I find it amusing that he's not on a lot of top 10 lists. He's like kind of just outside of their list, but he's not in the top 10 a lot. And this kid is one of these guys that I could see him being a day one starter. I honestly do. I see him coming in, whether you have a hole there, whatever, he'll plug it and fill it and you'll be good. Like, this kid is very quick, very fast, tackles well. I love that about corners that are willing to come up and tackle, just freaking come up and hit the running back, take their legs out, do what you got to do as a physical standpoint, play every range of the position. Brownlee, very good. Zone, very good. I think he can definitely be a man-to-man corner. Didn't do a ton at Louisville, but I think it's there. Great footwork. So I love Jarvis Brownlee Jr. I'm looking for him to kind of be a steal for someone. He might not even go in the I know I said top 2 days for all these corners. He should, but he might not. Maybe he's a third round player, but nonetheless, he'll be a steal for someone. Number 8, I have safety. The one safety and the only safety in this top 10, Tyler Nubin from Minnesota. He's pretty much the consensus safety. Everybody has Tyler Nubin as the guy, the number one guy. There are a couple others that maybe 3 years down the road, maybe they surpass him. But, man, he does everything well. Very physical corner. He's not the tallest corner. He's kind of short. But, man, he's very instinctive. He's very aware as a safety. When he sees something develop, he's going. Like, there's no hesitation in his game. Great tackler. You love his run support game. and also can cover. Like, he does everything well, like we said before. And here's the other thing. We always talk about running backs being devalued. Safeties are tremendously devalued. A lot of times safeties don't go in the first round anymore. We used to see that all the time. There used to be at least one, maybe even two that go in the first round. Now, you're lucky to see a safety go in the second round, maybe even later than that, third or fourth. So Tyler Nubin, well, I'm curious to see where he ends up getting drafted. Number 7, Renardo Green from Florida State. This is another corner that this dude, super smart corner. He doesn't have tremendous size, but what he does have is football IQ and quickness. He's one of the quicker corners in this draft, and he's always in the right position. He's never like away from his responsibility. He's always there, and it makes it extremely difficult for quarterbacks to throw to him or throw on his side because he's always there. So Renardo Green also is a two-way type of defensive player. He also played safety, so he has experience at corner and safety and can do both. That's versatility right there, and he does both well. So Renardo Green kind of moves up a little bit higher than some people have him, but it's because I love guys that can do more than just one thing and do it well. He can play safety, he can play corner, and like I said, quick. He's very instinctive. And he's has good ball skills too. So I got him at 7. Number 6. This is where it gets interesting. A lot of people have Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama higher than 6. I have him at 6 because of the Liz Frank injury he sustained this past season and played with it, actually. Mm-hmm. He ran a 40 recently where people were kind of curious to see, well, is he going to be able to? Is he still going to be injured? We're not going to get that time. Ran a 4.47. Kind of surprised people because when you watch him at Alabama, even though the quickness is there, the smarts is there, the physicality is there, but everybody was questioning his top end speed because Alabama played a lot of zone. They played some man, but then in certain plays, you're like, well, why didn't he stick with this guy? Or why didn't he, he knew that play was going to happen. Why didn't he it seems sometimes that he was kind of like, well, the ball's not coming this way. Ball's not coming this way. So I don't really need to worry about it. Mm-hmm. And that kind of bothers me. You should be playing the whole play out. It doesn't happen often, but like there were some times where it's like he kind of, and I understand he's very smart and whatnot. And most likely it wasn't going to come, but I like a guy that's going to finish the whole play, every play. So he's knocked down a little bit, and because of that foot injury, because he's not fully cleared yet. I thought he was, but apparently he's not fully cleared yet. He ran his 40 anyway. He's like getting close. It sounds like he'll be ready for training camp, but man, something about that kind of like there's something not right. Like I feel like he should have been medically cleared before he ran the 40. So that it's coming soon, but not here yet. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then here we go, number 5. Top 5 here. Everybody has this guy as the number 1 corner. A lot of people do. Not everybody. A lot of people do. Terrion Arnold from Alabama. I love Terrion Arnold. I really, really do. And people are going to be like, well, why do you have him at 5? Well, there's kind of like a thing about Alabama players. As great as Terrion Arnold is, and Kool-Aid McKinstry is just right there with him. Terrion Arnold sometimes he's very physical. Don't get me wrong, very physical. He does a great job of responsibility, that he has, and he takes it very seriously. Makes plays or tackles against the run and what have you. Covers well. The one thing I'm kind of a little question mark about his game is the fact that I don't know if he's going to be able to, like, much like Kool-Aid in a sense, is I wanted to see more tape of him just on an island against a speedster and lock it up. He's a great player. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not trying to make it sound like these guys are not going to be good players at the next level. They're all going to be starters. I mean, the top 5, definitely. Top 6, maybe. But, like, they're all going to be starters. But Terry Arnold, I'd have him docked down a little bit just because of I think the talent is a little bit better with the top 4. That's all. He's going to be a super solid player no matter where he gets picked. And these guys, I would say the top 6 on this list are all first-round picks. They're all getting picked in the first round. Maybe one of them slips into the early second, but they're going to get picked right away at that point. So, and that's where I have Terry Arnold at 5. Now let's get to number 4. TJ Tampa from Iowa State. I will tell you that I didn't know anything about him early on in the process, but the more I heard his name, I started watching tape on this kid. My jaw dropped. I could not believe the instincts, the smarts that he had on the football field at Iowa State. Mind you, he was a Georgia recruit. Turned down Georgia to go play for Iowa State. And the only thing that I could think of, it wasn't because the school, it was because when am I going to get to play?
Mm-hmm.
You guys got like a laundry list of 20 players on the depth chart for corner. When do I get a shot? My last year at senior year? I want to play earlier than that. So I think that's why he went to Iowa State. Went to Iowa State, is flat out amazing. I could not believe what I was watching because he was making plays like he's a long, tall corner, very quick. He's got these quick twitch fibers that like it's like on a dime, it's just boom, he's gone. And he was doing things that I didn't see anybody else in this draft class do. Even my number 1 rated corner is when they were playing zone, he had the awareness and the aptitude to watch the quarterback, but at the same time, he's like, I got my guy shallow, right? I got my guy covered shallow. He ain't throwing it here because I'll just jump it. But then all of a sudden, once he noticed or thought that he was going to deliver the ball behind him, he turned and ran. And by the time the ball got there, he just jumped up and picked it right in front of the receiver. Like he was actually covering him, for God's sakes. And it was 15 yards down the field. It wasn't even close. So, like, his awareness, his ball skills, everything about his game, and he's physical. He loves to hit. And there was another play I'll even give you where he peeled off his coverage because he saw the ball coming over the middle and destroyed this dude over the middle. The guy just dropped the ball because he got blasted. Unbelievable ball skills. He's a ball hawk of a corner. He is truly amazing. So I have him way higher than probably most. I have him at 4 because I came away super impressed with him that whoever gets this kid, whether he plays zone, and some people have a knock on him about man, like press man. He doesn't look comfortable. Like he looks a little like he wasn't asked to do it that much.
Yep.
But at the next level, I think that skill of his with good coaching can be coached up and make it a comfortability thing. So I have no questions in TJ Tampa's game. So he'll be at 4. In our top 3, Cooper DeJean, the great white hype from Iowa. The first white corner that is going to be drafted in the first round. And I hate to take it to a racist part here, but I got to say how excited I am for finally we get a white defensive back to be graced in the first round. And it's not a gift. This guy does everything extremely well. Some people view him as a safety, okay? But I think I don't care where you put him, he's going to be a dynamic player for you. And there's really no weaknesses in his game. The only thing that you could probably take away is, first of all, the guy is just gigantic. He's 207. He's 207 and just muscular built. Like he doesn't even, he looks like a safety, but doesn't look like a corner, but moves like a corner. So tremendous zone corner because that's what Iowa played a lot of. And when it came down to man coverage, again, he was kind of like TJ Tampa, where he wasn't asked to do it a lot. And when he was asked, he did it adequately. He did it maybe even above average, but was an elite at it. I think, but with his athletic ability and what he can do, I mean, Jesus, he was coming back from an injury this year. He just recently ran a 40, right? And everybody was kind of like wondering, is this guy going to be slow? No, this guy ran a 4.4 flat 40. Like, tremendous speed. And with his size, it's uncanny. It doesn't make sense. So he has very fluid hips too. You wouldn't think that either. Usually bigger corners, they have a little bit of a harder time flipping their hips and turning and running with the receiver. He doesn't. So I don't care if you're drafting this dude to play safety for you, drafting him to play corner for you, or drafting him to play both. This dude is going to be a difference maker for whoever takes him in the first round. I got him at 3. Now, let's get to number 2. There's a lot of concerns with this guy, Nate Wiggins from Clemson, where he's super light. He is light as a feather. I'm telling you right now, this dude, it weighs like 170 plus. This guy is tiny, but he's 6'1", 6'2" in that area. Very tall, lean corner. He's not a great tackler. You're not getting a guy that's going to come up and stop the run. He'll do what he can, but he's so light. I think at the next level, you're going to see him be easily blocked by wide receivers. You're going to see them run towards him because he's not going to be a factor. And that's going to be the negative in his game. He's not big enough. He's small. He's going to get pushed around when it comes to blocking. But you look at the other part of his game where what do corners do best? They cover. This dude is electric. He is the fastest and quickest corner out of everybody in this class. Truly amazing speed, top end, 4.28. Like it's insane. And his coverage skills and ball skills, well, not ball skills, but coverage skills are off the map. You look at when people will very easily can see, oh, that's Dion. They could easily kind of make that claim because Dion, when he came out, was kind of the same way. Not the body type,
yeah,
but he was a guy that shied away from contact, didn't want to come up and play run. But what was he? Tremendously gifted at coverage.
Yep.
And I'm not comparing Wiggins to Dion because he's not. But what I'm saying is when you have that kind of top tier talent that can just flat out play man, play zone extremely well, and is always around the ball, batting the ball away. He does need to get better ball skills, though. He does need to get better in terms of catching the ball and turning those balls into turnovers. That's the other part of his game he needs to develop. Mm-hmm. But if you're talking about just flat out coverage ability, he's off the charts good. He's going to be amazing. I love the kid. I would take a shot at him. And I think the one thing is if you're able at the next level to not only get him stronger, get him bigger at the next level, it's going to take a couple years. Maybe it'll take 1 year based on genetics. But if you can get him bigger and stronger, that might change every negative part of his game in terms of run support. Because then when he's bigger and stronger, now he might be like, you know what? I can knock people around now. Now I might stick my head in there. And I think that's what you might see at the next level. Definitely needs to develop it, but he's right there. And then number 1, last but not least, Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo. Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo has the ball skills of a Nate Wiggins, who in terms of coverage ability is off the charts good, super quick. He mirrors wide receivers extremely well to the point where like it's almost like he knows where they're going. It's like he knows where the route's going. And he's there already. Pass breakups galore, interceptions, can catch the ball, do everything well, and he's physical. And he will come up and blast you. He will throw his body into you. So overall, I have him as my number 1 because he does everything off the charts well. The one thing that people are going to knock him for is obviously you think of Toledo and you're like, you freaking played at Toledo. Like, how can he be the number 1 corner? Mm-hmm. Some people have number 1 because for the same reasons I said, but some people are going to knock him because he comes from Toledo and lower competition, whatever. The one caveat of all this is that when he went to the Senior Bowl, he played top tier competition. You look at Roman Wilson from Michigan, one of the quickest and fastest wide receivers you'll see in college. He went up man-to-man against him and didn't necessarily shut him out, but man, he stayed right with him, had a couple of pass breakups, incompletions, all that because of him. So I think at the next level, I think he's going to be just fine. Someone's going to get a special player in Quinyon Mitchell too.
All right, so there you go. There's his top 10 defensive backs. One more time here just to take a look at them here from the 10 all the way down to number 1. And Joe, again, we
Yes,
were
sir.
very excited to see all this and how it plays out when the draft does
Right.
show up. Because again, when it's nice when we kind of analyze these guys early on and kind of take a guess
Gives you an
what these
idea.
guys are going to go and where they might be a nice fit and who actually takes them and who takes a shot on it, especially if they take them early. You're like, ooh.
Right.
Are they
Like,
thinking what
oh.
I'm thinking kind of too?
Yeah,
You know
right.
what I mean? Like, well, what's up with this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's very exciting. It's going to be a few weeks from now. Can't wait. You got more lists coming up in the next coming
Thank
weeks.
God there's only 2 more positions.
Yes, that's right. And it's the big flashy, positions that everybody likes here. But
Oh, let me tell you. So I've been putting in a lot of hours of watching these guys
I know.
play. And I did kind of get a head start on quarterbacks. Jesus. I tell you, I'm going to have a migraine.
yeah,
I'm trying
I
to
bet.
figure out that whole position group because it's not like in years past where years past you had 2, 3, maybe 4 quarterbacks that were seen as high end, and then everyone's like, you can get them later. This year we're talking 5, 6, maybe not 7, but maybe 6 quarterbacks that could possibly go in the first round, and not throughout the first round. I'm talking early, top half of the first round.
Yeah.
So, like you mentioned, we are excited about this upcoming draft because it's going to be like no other. I think there's going to be plenty of surprise picks and maybe even trades that happen. It's going to be exciting, but it's definitely going to be a fiasco of sorts for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, we got those lists coming up. And in a few weeks, we also have our mock draft, which is going to be very
so
exciting
excited.
too, because again,
Listen.
I get more involved and we get to try and see with who's going best available by who's available on our list, which is very exciting to see. And then also, see if they do go for what a need might be and things or value that's there.
But that's
the funny thing
the
too, is
crazy
once the
thing.
draft hits, it still gets messed up somehow. So then where
Yeah.
are teams going? You still never know. And we always kind of look at it when ours is like, hey, here's who's left over. Where would they go at? Well, maybe it was here. That's where you kind of go through.
Yeah.
But when the draft actually hits, it is totally different.
The funny thing is about it too is like we've even seen the thing where we're like, we picked a player for this spot because we don't.
Yeah.
Just so everyone knows, we don't do trades.
Right,
It's
Really
too
anticipate it.
difficult to anticipate or predict those trades happening because even when you try to predict them, none of them go the way you think. So, and we've seen that a lot in years past where like, I thought whatchamacallit was going to trade up and get so-and-so. And you're like, well, they didn't even trade. So it's like, you have to have a partner and there's too many variables involved in it. So we just don't even bother doing trades. It saves us the headache of trying to figure that all out. But also it's so hard to predict. It's near impossible. And we know that they do these mock draft contests where they're like, if you guess the first round right, you get $1 million or something like that.
Yeah.
You're never going to get that.
No.
You know how difficult that would be? It'd be just pure luck if you got it right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we don't do trades in our mock draft, but we do a lot. It's a live mock draft. It's not something like this where we get our top 10 and then set up and then we kind of just show you. We're going to go through the first round with you guys. We're going to go over needs, wants, every single team. And we're going to probably have some lengthy discussions with especially some of these teams because they could literally go any direction. And Jim mentioned how needs might come into play or whatever. But let me tell you what, I think no matter what, we'll still get half this first round wrong, at least, because there's going to be some surprise picks. And I just don't doubt this at all, where we're like, they're not going to take a receiver, are they? And then the next thing you know, like, oh, shit, they took another wide receiver? Like, there's going to be things like that where you're like, you're not going to see it coming and boom, it's going to hit you. Because with this draft, more than any, we keep saying it and we have to keep letting you guys know. It is going to be a super deep draft. It's going to be exciting. And it's also predicting, like, for future rounds. So teams might look at a pick like we talked about the Cowboys, for example, right? We don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to go receiver? Are they going to go offensive line? But they might look at it like this. They get to their pick. They're like, okay, well, we know that the receivers are deep. What's not deep in the next round? Well, do we want a starter-worthy offensive lineman? We got to take him now because next round, we're not going to get the guy we want in the next round. We might get a really good receiver, though, who could start for us. So let's pick offensive line now. There's going to be those conversations too in the war room for every team, which we're going to have to change our caps every single pick and try to figure this thing out, but it's going to be a blast. Definitely.
Oh, hell yeah. And also 2021 review, the draft review to see where some of those guys panned out. And it falls in line with, like we said, 50% of it are hits or misses, a lot of times in these drafts. And that was a quarterback heavy draft too, I think, as well. Where do they pan out from now? What do you guys think about this stuff?
Another quick stat on that, and we talked about quarterbacks earlier, and should you or shouldn't you take one early? Here's what I'm going to leave you with, you guys. Out of all the quarterbacks that have been taken in NFL history, 40% of them hit. 40. Think about that. Not 50, not 60, not 100, not 80, not 90. 40% actually hit and turn out to be franchise quarterbacks. So think about that before you wish for your team to go up and just take a quarterback. Make sure he's right. Because I'll tell you right now, whatever team misses on that position, more than likely the GM and the head coach are fired if it doesn't work out. So you better make sure you know what you're doing. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. That being said, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday night for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.